Did you know that September is Hunger Action Month? All year long, but especially in the month of September, we do our part in assisting in the fight against hunger. We are happy to be joined this evening by Chef Thomas Yeager of Mercy Chefs. Mercy Chefs is a disaster relief kitchen with a new location in Richmond, Virginia. Chef Yeager will have an opportunity to tell you more about Mercy Chefs in just a little bit. Tonight's program is called Dinner in a Snap. This is where Chef Yeager will teach us how to make home-cooked meals using ingredients that can be purchased with SNAP benefits. We are excited to learn tonight. Remember, this is a cooking demonstration, so meal prep times have been adjusted to accommodate the allotted time for our program. We hope you enjoy. Without further ado, I'll turn things over to Chef Thomas Yeager.
Thank you so much for that introduction. We're excited to be back for another week with our Dinner and a Snack program with AARP. Thank you so much for putting this program on. The past couple of weeks have been great. We've learned how to make shepherd's pie. We've learned how to do a potato chip encrusted chicken leg that you can roast in the oven just to get a nice crispy coating where you don't have to fry at home. And then tonight, you mentioned that these recipes have been adjusted. We're actually going to use a crock pot. The recipe, if you're following along, the link, I believe, should have been provided for you in the chat already, where you could go to our website at mercychefs.com to find out our blog, Dinner and a Snack. And tonight's meal is a braised beef goulash. And so we are going to learn some braising steps tonight. Just a quick pasta cooking, and then we'll put everything together with our diced tomatoes and corn and just have a really nice hearty meal. And so without further ado, we're going to get started tonight. This recipe is really, if you look at the length of time, it's probably about a 4.5-hour process. But that's just because we are going to be slow cooking our beef in the crock pot. But once it's so nice and tender, you're going to see how it shreds tonight. And we're going to finish everything in a saute pan. But first things first, we want to get our meat going. And so we have a nice roast that we got at the grocery store. Your recipe calls for a 2-pound roast. That's a chuck roast. And then we're just going to season it. We talked a little bit last week about how some recipes, you don't have to be as strict and follow it by the T. This recipe calls for salt and pepper, but I'm a fan of garlic and I like to use a little extra seasoning. So I actually have a little garlic powder that we're also going to put on our roast. And we're just going to coat the top with salt, pepper, and garlic. And then we're going to flip over our roast and do the same thing to the other side. All right. And then just get a nice little salt, pepper, garlic crust. And once we get this applied, I'm just going to rub it just to make sure that all sides are seasoned nice and equally. And you can also, if you're a fan of different herbs, maybe like a little spicy with a little cayenne in there. But we're just going to make sure that's nice and seasoned. Just really nice roast. This one is just about 2 pounds. And so that's really it for our seasoning. It's just a nice quick season. And so we're going to set this to the side here for a second. And we're going to get our ingredients in place. If you follow any other cooking programs, it's called our mise en place. So tonight's mise en place, we're going to learn how to dice a yellow onion, how to peel garlic, and then for our ingredients, calls for a can of diced tomatoes. So you have a can of diced tomatoes, We have our frozen corn that we're going to be using as well. And then our recipe calls for a half a pound of macaroni. So we have our macaroni, our corn, and tomatoes already. But as far as dicing an onion, we're going to take the tops and bottoms off. Just be careful with an onion. It's round, it doesn't have a flat surface, so it will roll on you. You just want to make sure you take the top off, and then you can spin it around and take that bottom off. And now what you've done is created a flat surface. So you can set that onion straight down. It's not going to roll on you. And then you can slice right through the center from the top. Now you have your 2 onions. Your recipe says 3/4 of a large onion. I felt this onion was a little less than large, so I'm going to use the whole onion with this demonstration tonight. And so you could kind of be the judge if you feel like your onions are super large or a little smaller than normal. But as you can see, we've just taken off the peel, discarded the peel, and now we have 2 really flat sides that we're just going to lay flat. It's not going to roll on you. It's a little more safe to cut. And we're just going to slice through. And you don't want to have a super large dice. And so we're just going straight through. And now with this onion, we're going to turn it. And then we're just going to cut across our grains that we just made. And now we have these really nice diced onions. And then we're going to do it for our other side as well. So we're just going to dice both sides. Really nice onion. I like using sweet onions. These are Vidalia onions. You can use yellow onion if you'd like. But just, I think the flavor is nice with our Vidalias. And so we're just getting through. And I just wanted to touch on our Richmond Community Kitchen a little bit. It did just open not even a year ago. And so we've been really excited to be there in the Richmond community. We've been able to partner with some really amazing organizations to be able to feed men's homeless shelters, women's homeless shelters. We've just started feeding the school. This school year, we're feeding kids breakfast and lunch, some really nice healthy meals, about 80 kids a day. And so just some really cool things going on in the Richmond Community Kitchen. So we have our head of garlic, and so to clean garlic, I believe your recipe says 2 cloves of garlic. So we're just going to pop 2 of these off of our head. And so we'll scoot our onions over just to give us a little bit of room to work. We're going to lay our knife flat down on top of our garlic, and with the palm of your hand, you're just going to press on it, and you can hear that crunch, and that crunch is breaking the outside of our garlic peel, and it allows us just to really remove this peel with ease, and so the whole thing just comes right off, just like that. So we can discard our garlic peel. And then all you really have left is just this little top nub where it connects to the head. And then we're just going to slice that off because that's a little hard and tough and not pleasant to eat. And we're going to do the same with the other one. You can hear that crunch. You're just really loosening up the skin to this garlic. And we're just going to peel that right back. And this garlic actually had a hidden garlic glue right on the inside of it. So now we have 3, look at that. And we're just going to take the tops off. And we'll just discard these tops. And now as we've crushed their garlic, it allows us to really be able to mince this a little bit easier. I'm still going to slice right through the center. It just allows for a finer mince when we get to there. So I've cut through the center. When you crush it with your palm, the inside of the garlic just kind of breaks up a little bit. So we're just going to make some nice slices through our garlic, just kind of how we did with our onion. It was nice and flat. And we're going to turn it to where we're cutting against the grain that we just did. And what that allows us to do is really have these nice fine diced. Actually, it's a little more closer to a minced garlic. And so we're just going to slice through that. And just chop it all up so it's nice and fine. All right. So now we have our nice minced garlic and we have our diced onion ready. And at this point is when we can come over to our pan. We have a pan set up just with a little bit of oil, and we're going to get a nice hard sear on our beef. So I'm going to get this nice and hot. And I just have a little bit of vegetable oil that we're going to coat in the bottom of our pan. And so we're just going to, just enough to coat the bottom. The beef, you don't need to let it swim in any kind of oil. We're not frying it. We're just going to get a nice hard sear. So let this warm up and bring our beef over. So you can see this roast, it's a nice 2-pound roast, very little fat on it. But we kind of just season the outside. So we have that salt, pepper, and garlic, and you can definitely season that to your preference. So this pan, just nice coating, nothing really that is standing. So we're just getting that hot. Cooking, you use your senses. You're gonna, like we heard the crunch of the garlic, and we can kind of feel just that heat radiating off of the pan. If you can hold your hand over it, it's probably not hot enough yet. So we're just gonna give this a second here. And then you can always do a little test with your roast. I think it needs just a little bit more time. What we can do is just kind of stick the tip down on the bottom of the pan, if you can hear it. Here. And so we're going to set that in there. And we're just going to get a nice hard sear. And we have our temperature on high right now. And that's good for now, but as that pan continues to heat, it's going to get hotter and hotter. And what will happen is that sear that's going to be a really nice deep brown color. When we flip the roast to the other side, because we're going to sear the sides of our roast, we might need to adjust the heat so that it doesn't burn quickly. So you're just kind of want to keep an eye out. And how you could do that is you're just going to want to watch the bottom of your roast just to see that color. We are using a choice chuck roast tonight. We just went to the local grocery store, Kroger, and found a nice chuck roast. So we're letting that come up, getting a nice sear. And as we've been talking this time, I've started our water for our macaroni. And so our water is boiling. Whenever you cook pasta, you want to make sure your water is salted. And that just is really the only time that your pasta is going to get seasoned is when it's cooking in that water. And then whatever you put in your pasta will flavor it. But really that pasta and salt in the water is a good time for it to season. So we did our recipe called for half a pound, or half pound of pasta. So we did elbow macaroni. You could definitely do penne pasta, rigatoni, just one of your favorites. Cavatappi is always a fun one. But we're just going to pour this right in to our water as it's boiling. And we're still keeping an eye, giving a nice color on our roast. And we just want to make sure that the pasta doesn't stick to the bottom. You may have heard that you need to oil your water when you cook pasta. It helps it not stick. Oil does not help your pasta not to stick in the water. Once you get your pasta out of the water, it's definitely a good time to toss in a little extra virgin olive oil, but it won't help with the cooking process. So Right now, we just are gonna flip over our roast. Got a nice hard sear on the one side. And as I said, that pan is definitely smoking hot, so we're gonna adjust our temperature. Just to make sure that we're not gonna burn the bottom side as we're getting a nice sear on this. So we got it up to a medium heat right. And we're just gonna keep an eye on our pasta, making sure that this cooks nice and even, doesn't stick together in the water. I also have our hot beef stock on the back. So when we go ahead and transfer the roast into the crock pot, we already have our beef stock nice and warm. Our crock pot temp has our recipe for 4 hours on low. So once we get a good sear, we are going to cook our onion. We have our crock pot on low, and that roast was going to cook for 4 hours. These classes have been really great. We did it last year. That's our second year doing our class series with AARP. And we've been really thankful. Our friends got to volunteer at a Richmond Community Kitchen last week and just said they had just such a great time volunteering. You can be able to go to our website and get involved. And if you want to volunteer, you could go and see all the different opportunities in all of our kitchens. We have community kitchens in Portsmouth, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, Nashville, Tennessee, and Dallas, Texas. If you don't have a crock pot, that's a great question. A Dutch oven, or you can even use you can use a pan just like this if you have a lid. And if you don't have a lid, you could cover it with tin foil. Once you get your liquid up to temperature, you'll get a nice little semi-boil. You could pop it in the oven at 350 degrees and let that cook in the oven, either in a Dutch oven inside the oven or in a pan with the cover on it, and let that cook. And so I just want to go ahead and show y'all just a really nice hard sear here. That's really what all your sides should look like, is just a really nice, rich, golden, deep brown color. And so that's going to be here. We have a little bit of pan drippings, which is great because we're going to cook our onions in this grease. So we're just going to slide our onions right into our hot oil. We're going to wait to put our garlic in. And that's just because our garlic is so much smaller. It will cook a lot quicker than our onions. So we're just going to let these cook. I have a nice low temperature. And remember, this pan is smoking hot. So we really don't want to have a high heat coming right into these onions. We want to be able to sweat them. They'll become translucent and easier to cook. And you can still hear that sizzle. This pan is really nice. Temperature is hot. I'm going to check on this pasta real quick. With our pasta, I mean, the boxes all generally stay around 8-7 minutes. And so really the best way to make sure your pasta's cooked is really just to take a piece, bite into it, and see how crunchy it is. Skin close, not quite there yet. One of our questions was, how long do you cook it in a pressure cooker? I have not had the opportunity to cook a roast in a pressure cooker. We have one at home, but I've never cooked a roast in it. One of the best ways to find out is just to do a quick little Google search. You should be able to find a couple quick answers on a pot roast in a pressure cooker pretty fast. And I would assume the 4 hours it takes for this, you'd be able to cook it in an hour or so. You can definitely use top round. One of the questions was a meat substitute for a pot roast. You could do a bone-in turkey breast, I think would be a really good option. It's that nice big turkey breast, that white meat. It's got a little better fat content for you, a little healthier. But you could definitely do turkey. You could definitely braise chicken. It's just preference really is using beef. All right, so our onions have started to sweat, and this is when we're going to add our garlic. We're just going to grab our garlic, add it right to our pan. And we're just going to let that sweat for another minute or so, just to bring out those aromatics. We don't want this pan super hot. We're not trying to turn our onions caramelized, just to get a nice translucent onion. All right. So as our pan has continued to cook from the time we've seared it to the time we've added our onions and garlic, you may find out that your pan might have some bits that are stuck onto the bottom. In traditional French cooking, it's called the fond, and that fond is just that crust that adheres to the bottom. And what we're going to do at this point, if you want to deviate from the recipe, you can deglaze with a little bit of red wine. Would be really nice with our pot roast. I have a beef stock that we're using tonight, and so I already measured this out, and so we're just going to pour that right into our pan. The beef stock was nice and hot, and so it won't take any time just to bring this up to a simmer. And we're gonna just with our spatula, just kind of make sure nothing has stuck to the bottom. And if there is anything that's stuck to the bottom, this is a time where you can just get that fond off with our deglazing process. All right. But at this point is when we will move our cooking liquid with onions and garlic into our crock pot. And with the magic of the internet, we already have done that, and we will not have to stay for another 4 hours. So that pot roast has been cooking. It's nice and tender, and so our pasta at this time is definitely done. So we have a strainer over here in our sink. Turn this off. And we're going to strain it, just a nice little strain. Let's let this hang out here for a second. And we are going to check out our pot roast that is cooked. Pull this out. So still about the same 2-pound pot roast we have here, and still really nice and moist. And about halfway through, I flipped the pot roast over just to have nice even cooking. With your liquid, you don't want the pot roast completely submerged. About halfway up the side of your pot roast is really all you need. But I'm not even really putting any pressure into it, and this pot roast is just literally falling apart. And so we are just going to take that and we're going to pull it. And this is great. If you have plans for the day, something that you could put in the crock pot in the morning, you can run your errands, and if you're comfortable leaving your crock pot on, that is something that can just be ready for you when you get back in the afternoon. And so when you get home, really all you have to do is cook pasta. Open up a can of corn and tomatoes, cut up an onion and some garlic. You can have a really awesome meal. So to be able to finish our pasta, we are going to use some of this cooking liquid. We're going to take a couple cups out of our crock pot, and we're going to place that right back into the pan. And so this has really developed some really rich flavor. Our onions are looking amazing. If you're an onion fan, they are nice and soft. And oh, this is going to be great. So we're going to put our pasta in. And we are going to make sure this all comes up. We're going to add our tomatoes in. All right. And then we're going to just bring this up to temperature. We're going to season a little bit. As we've talked over the past couple of weeks, we've talked about seasoning as you go. And so you don't want to always dump the full amount of salt that a recipe might say at the beginning. If you noticed in the recipe, there's two places for salt and pepper. There's a portion when we season our pot roast, and then there's a portion here at the end where we season our pasta. So at this point, that liquid is just really coming up to a nice temperature. We pulled it out of our crock pot, so it's already warm. Our corn and tomatoes were at room temperature, so this will just take a second or so. And we're going to, at this point, season. Again, as I mentioned, I'm really a fan of garlic, so I'll probably add a little garlic powder to it. We're going to season once. We'll taste it, and then if we need to add a little bit more, then we'll do that here in a second. Salt, pepper. Again, garlic. All right, and then our recipe calls for paprika. So it calls for 2 tablespoons of paprika, and then 1 tablespoon of Italian herbs. So I got 2 tablespoons of paprika. Our Italian seasoning. And we're just going to fold that in together. Just let all these flavors come. This pasta is going to get all that nice rich beef stock soaked up. That's one of my favorite things about different pastas. You have the ones with like penne pasta. This has that nice cavity in where that sauce can really just soak up inside the penne. So we are with that nice and mixed in. All right. Grab a spoon. Really, we're just checking for our flavor right now. And so being able to adjust any salt levels, being able to adjust any spice. If you like a little spicy, some red pepper flakes at this point would really be great. So we'll this allowed us to come up to temperature. And then we will grab our plating bowls just to get ready for our final plate presentation. And I don't know where everybody's at, but these last 2 days have been really rainy and a little just gloomy. And so this meal, this crock pot meal with the pasta, this goulash, is just this really perfect hearty meal when you've come home from work all day, or it's just one of those meals that you want just to really give you that hug at the end of the night when you want a nice meal just to warm up on the inside. It's been cold. This is really the perfect meal for such a night. So we have our hot pasta and our beef. And so we're just going to serve this up. And as you can see, Our recipes, they're meant to serve family of four, and it's plenty of food that you can serve a family of four on our snack budget. So you have a nice broth, really mixed in tomatoes and corn, and then we're just going to top it with our hot shredded beef. Based on this recipe, you get about a half a pound of meat per person on a family of four. So this has been dinner and a snack. You can always garnish just to give yourselves just a nice little pop of color, little extra bit of flavor at the top, and a little bit of paprika just to set off that little color. And in 4.5 hours, you have a really nice meal. But and our class tonight has been great to be able to show you how to do this goulash. It's such a great meal for this weather that we've been experiencing. And so at this time, if there's any questions that y'all have, I'd love to be able to answer those.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carl Hamio. I'm the outreach director here in Central Virginia. Just a few quick questions, Chef. Some of them you may have already covered, but I just wanted to make sure that people heard them because they were in the chat. One was, could they have the cooking instructions for cooking in the oven if they don't have a crock pot?
Yes, I could be able to maybe send that to you and you could send out. It's basically, you're going to do that same process that we did, searing the meat, bringing up your onions and garlic and broth to temperature to where it's just under boiling. And then you're going to transfer that into a Dutch oven or a pan suitable for inside of your oven. That oven needs to be about 350 degrees. And it needs to be, just make sure that pan is covered. It might take a little bit less time than 4 hours inside of your oven. You'll need to have a little bit more presence, keeping an eye on it versus your crock pot.
All right. And if you do send me that, I can certainly send that to all of our participants in a follow-up email. So can do that. Someone asked, what exactly is the kind of beef that you are recommending that be used?
The chuck roast, it's really a muscle that gets used a lot. It's tough, and it tends to be on one of the cheaper cuts. But the process of slow cooking and braising, it breaks down all that muscle, and it just, as you saw, just shredded with ease and just really nice and tender, which is just as soft as eating a steak or ribeye. Just really nice piece of meat that most people don't find as appealing, but cooking the process of braising or slow cooking, it just really makes that piece of meat shine. So good.
Gotcha. Another person asked, they said, if they were attempting to use boneless chicken thighs instead of the beef, how would that change the crock pot cooking?
It'll be a little bit faster. You're not dealing with this huge muscle of meat. Those thighs are really thin. And so you can still sear it on both sides, get that nice color. You might want to change to a chicken stock versus a beef stock. And then just let it go for maybe 2 hours. You want to make sure that chicken is 165 degrees, make sure it's fully cooked all the way through. And then that chicken thigh will definitely shred just like our beef did.
Gotcha. And someone asked, did you sear the roast before you put it in the crock pot?
Yes, we seared it on all sides just to get that nice deep color. And what that sear does, it allows those juices on the inside just to lock in and just really be nice and flavorful and juicy.
Okay. Someone asked, would smoked paprika be a good option in making this?
Absolutely. There's different styles of goulash. There's so many different cultures use a goulash of some sort, and you can definitely use a smoked paprika over regular paprika. You could do sweet paprika, but yes, you can interchange those.
And the last question that I saw was, could you use a top round roast instead of the chuck roast?
Absolutely.
All
Yes, you
right.
can.
All right. Thanks for answering all the questions, Chef Yeager. We appreciate you as always. Phenomenal job on tonight. Everything looks delicious. So many people are commenting in the chat about how delicious it looks and how they can't wait to make it. So thank you for joining us yet again this week. We're so honored and delighted to have you with us. With that being said, I'm going to turn things over to our wonderful volunteer, Miss Denise Brown, who's going to close us out with our outro for tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you all for joining us. We hope that you have enjoyed tonight's program. In a few days, you will get a survey asking about your experience tonight. Please take the time to complete that survey so that we know how to better serve you in the future. One more time in the comments section, please help me thank Chef Yeager. Don't forget, we will be here every Wednesday at 5 p.m. during the month of September. Please be sure to register for next Wednesday's dinner and a snack program. Until next week, we hope you have enjoyed this demonstration, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.